as you build increasingly complex compositions, you'll need to preview specific branches of your node tree without waiting for full renders. In this video, you will learn how to create RAM Flipbook Previews in Fusion. What is a Flipbook Preview? Flipbook Previews exist entirely within RAM. They are preview renders that allow you to watch a node's output at different levels of quality for quick processing and real-time playback. Creating a preview is relatively fast once you know where to look. You can choose the node in your node tree that you want to preview in 3 ways. Method A, right-click a node in the node editor, choose Create, Play Preview On, Left Viewer or Right Viewer from the drop-down menu. The Render Settings dialog appears where you can configure the preview. Method B, hold down the Alt or Option key while dragging a node directly from the node editor into the viewer. The Render Settings dialog will be displayed and the preview will appear on the viewer you target. Method C, if you want to bypass the Render Settings dialog and just use the settings that you chose last, hold down Shift Option or Shift Alt while you drag the node into the viewer. The settings dialog will not appear and the rendering preview will start right away. Now let's look at settings in the Preview Render dialog. The settings section of the Preview Render dialog includes 3 buttons that determine the overall quality and appearance of your Flipbook preview. These buttons also have a significant impact on the render times. High Q. When enabled, the setting renders the preview in full image quality. If you need to see what the final output of your node would look like, then you would enable the High Q setting. If you are producing a rough preview to test animation, you can save yourself by disabling this setting. MB. The MB in this setting stands for motion blur. When enabled, the setting renders with motion blur applied if any node is set to produce motion blur. If you are generating a rough preview and you aren't concerned with motion blur for animated elements, then you can save yourself time by disabling the setting. Sum. When sum is enabled, only the nodes specifically needed to produce the image for the node you're previewing are rendered. Size. Since RAM Flipbook Previews use RAM, it's helpful to know how many frames you can render into your RAM before you run out of memory. The Flipbook Preview dialog calculates the currently available RAM and displays how many frames will fit into it. If you have a small amount of RAM in your computer and you cannot render the entire range of frames that you want, you can choose to lower the resolution to the setting that delivers the best quality duration ratio for your preview. Shoot on. Sometimes you may not want to render every single frame, but instead every second, third, or fourth frame to save render time and get faster feedback. You can use the step parameter to determine the interval at which frames are rendered. Frame range. This field defaults to the current render range in and out set for the time ruler to determine the start and end frames for rendering. You can modify the range to render more or fewer frames. Configurations. Once you have created a useful preview configuration, you can save it for later by clicking the Add button, giving it a name, clicking OK. While the Flipbook preview is loaded into a viewer, or open in full screen mode, you can play or scrub through it using the mouse and keyboard. To play back a Flipbook using the mouse, double-click the viewer to start playback. To scrub through a Flipbook while using the mouse, hold down the right mouse button, drag left or right to scrub through the frames. To scrub through a Flipbook frame by frame using the keyboard, press the left or right arrow keys to move to the previous or next frame. Hold Shift and press left or right arrow keys to jump back and forth 10 frames. Press Ctrl left arrow to jump to the first frame. Press Ctrl right arrow to jump to the last frame.